Hey guys, I just wanted to address the religious right in Britain. Very interesting topic, very interesting phenomena. So I dispatched this program on this. It's a Channel 4 program in Britain. Um, yeah, it raised some interesting points, some things that I think will be important for people to consider, especially in this country. Um, I mean, the differences between the religious right in America and the religious right in Britain, I think, need to be highlighted, and more importantly, the differences between the specific contexts in which they both emerge, because that will shape their influence, future behaviour. Really, it's all that can define them. Um, okay, so both of the movements seem very much centered on things that we might consider intrinsic Christian values, such as um, or at least intrinsic right-wing Christian values. Okay, so against homosexuality, anti-abortion, um, teaching biblical literalism in schools and science classes, and certainly a heavy political hand, and the notion of wanting to get a Christian state. Now, as I said, that's right-wing religious fundamentalism, not just religion generally. Um, yeah, so the differences in the actual context in which they're emerging are quite significant. Many Americans say, for example, we're founded by Christian beliefs, etc. And although there might be a certain degree of truth to that, it's arguable that the four founding fathers were at best deists, and this distinct separation of church and state is right in there from the beginning. Whereas we have we've had a large history of Catholicism, and then we had um, the sovereign ruler of the land, the king, appointed by God, nonetheless, set up his own church, which he sort of kind of was ruler of as well. So there's not as much as a separation between church and state as you guys have, which it's a very different culture. I mean, we still have the blasphemy law. You can still actually technically be arrested for blasphemy. We still have a monarch who is technically appointed by God. So it permeates a lot of our culture. In fact, in small communities, particularly village communities, but also some urban areas, the religion ties together people, communities, etc. So although the beliefs, we as a nation, I believe we are more secular, religious themes and ideas still sort of permeate all our society, which leads me to one of the points, about teaching creationism in schools, and religion in schools generally. Now, I know, at least on paper in the States, you guys can't promote one particular view, one particular religious view over another. At least on paper, I think that's true. Correct me if I'm wrong. But in Britain, however, we've got quite a large amount of faith-based schools. They're commonplace. I went to a Church of England primary school, and I went to a Catholic secondary school. And not only are they commonplace, but they're revered because they tend to do a lot better in the tables, etc. That they're associated with instilling good values. They organise some trips to Christian outings and so on. So perhaps as well they might perform better because they're a little bit more elitist, who they let in, and certain other things. But regardless, the schools themselves are considered better than normal government schools. So it's a little bit more of a fertile ground. However, there was some schools in Bristol which are teaching literal versions of creationism. That this little girl's science test was, how many days did God create the earth in? She got it right. It was 6, and he rested on the 7th day. But this is kind of very scary, because I don't think we've really seen it before, at least not to the extent that we see it now. And there's a lot of American pastors, American lawyers, and American textbooks sort of finding their way into Britain and instilling more sort of American right-wing ideas. I think one of them that we might see an increase of is nationalism. I mean, generally in this country, I know in America I might be overstating these things, but there's patriotism coincides quite highly with religious fundamentalism, whereas in this country I don't think it can be said as true. There might be a little bit of correlation, but in America it's patriotism and fundamental beliefs are very highly correlated. So we might see an increase of patriotism. I think that the whole thing has sort of been fueled a little bit more because in this country there's a large amount of Muslims, and there's a significant number of mosques, and in some places like Bradford this has led to high levels of segregation, very high levels of segregation, and I think that the fear has fueled perhaps a more fundamental Christian perspective. And in America, you guys have some Muslims, but in England it is really part of our culture to a larger extent. It is part of our culture now, and I think some people don't like this, and that they've got very conservative values, and I think it's a sort of an outlash at what's going on at the moment. I mean, we've had a few alleged terrorist attacks and bombings and things, and I think people perhaps see the only way to resolve this problem is to become more politicized. However, against this notion of them progressing, on the documentary itself, there was a high level of it looked at it in a very cynical light and a negative light, which to me suggests that the general consensus is that these things aren't tolerated. I mean, there is still a large secular movement in Britain, and that I think also includes religious moderates. I don't think religious fundamentalism will flower as much as it has done in America, but I do think it's something that we need to be on the lookout for, particularly the teaching of creationism in public schools, because we're really shooting ourselves in the foot in terms of technological development, advancement, etc. Okay, I'll probably make some more videos about consciousness after this. Peace.